So I'd like to take my portion to explain the content of today's event, which will be a bit different from the ones that follow. So as part of our overall mandate to support European researcher diaspora networks in the United States and Canada, we need to be and want to be of service to you, get to know your needs, challenges, and success stories. So today's meeting is an open event for the leaders of the European Scientific Diaspora, or ESD, networks for their members, and then for all other researchers and the general public who are interested in research in transatlantic collaboration and all of these great networks. So today we want your feedback on what can be useful during these periodic check-in meetings, and we'll be asking you for your input in a few moments in the workshop portion. And based on everyone's suggestions, we'll then take that to build out a framework for what the future meetings will look like on a recurring basis. So there will be a bit more structure and actual content and presentations in future meetings, and today is a bit more where we can just learn from you and help shape everything to be of use to you. So we anticipate these to be about once a quarter. I don't want to begin planning these without plenty of input from everyone. So you are stakeholders, you are our beneficiaries. So I see today's meeting more as an introduction, orientation, and feedback session all rolled into one. So for a quick introduction to EURAXESS, for those who aren't familiar with us, we are a project of the European Commission to promote Europe as a research destination. But as I've mentioned before, we also support researcher mobility in all directions. So therefore, we help deepen those connections between European researchers and North America. So I'll share a link in the chat to our annual meeting of the European Scientific Diasporas in North America, which took place 2 months ago. And on that page, you can watch the recording, read a brief report summarizing the event, and you'll get a really good idea of the events we did throughout all of last year and our general mandate and the activities that we'll be looking to do in the years to come. At that event in December, I announced our ESD, our European Scientific Diaspora Network Incubator Pilot Program. So this is an initiative to provide support to existing European researcher networks and then also to help launch new ones. So I want to thank many of the people in attendance today who have applied to that or expressed their interest in that. We will in the coming weeks be responding to the current applications. And then also I want to just make a call for everyone here today to get in touch with the European Scientific Diaspora networks of interest to you, and then also apply if you are part of an existing network or would like to launch one, and we can see the ways in which we can work with you. So with that, I'd like to introduce the speakers who will follow me before the workshop portion. Firstly is Paulo Martinez, who is a certified professional facilitator who has facilitated and moderated several of our events, and he understands our work very well, and he will be, I think, taking over a lot of the heavy lifting from the rest of the meeting. We also have Dr. Daria Buyuktinir-Karajan, my coworker and colleague. So we are the two people that make up the EURAXESS North America office based in Washington, DC, and we cover all of the US and Canada for our mandates, as I mentioned before. She and I have been co-designing this workshop with Paolo since our annual meeting, so this is 2 months in the making. And then finally, we have Dr. Florent Bernard, the EU Science Counselor to the United States, who is here on behalf of the European Union delegation to the US based in Washington, DC. I will share a link in the chat right now to some reflections he gave when he came in mid to late 2021. So he is somewhat new in the role, but also has had several months of familiarity with the US landscape now and has really interesting insights and perspectives on the transatlantic research relationship. So I'd like to welcome him to give some welcome remarks and also introduce his colleagues.
Thank you, Jackson. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. It's a great honor to be here with you today. I'm just going to ask you a favor at the end of my speech because I'm here with Vasilis Kotifaris, who is a senior press officer at the EU delegation. And the reason we are here, you will see, is because we want to engage much more with you all, me in my capacity as science counselor, and Vasilis in his capacity as press officer disseminating what Europe does in the US and vice versa. So I'm going to ask you if you can, more of you switch on your camera at the end of my talk or now, so we can have a proper picture, because it's a bit gloomy to advertise a European network with so many black screens. And that's one thing that we wanted to do after this seminar. So I wanted to address you some words that are important and looking at the recent trends in EU-US cooperation. So the EU and the US have been cooperating for so many years. It's kind of become natural, and the mobility of researchers between the two continents has been vibrant and dynamic, and we have taken it for granted. But the recent years, we've seen that there is a need for revamp and reactivate EU-US cooperation. We just had a seminar yesterday. We can share with you the video when it's out, where our director in Brussels shared some thoughts with the director of the Department of State on our future cooperation. And it's clearly a time where the EU and the US must team up even more than before to address societal challenge, to address geopolitical challenge, and ensure the technology leadership of both continents. So my presence here is very important because you are, I want to transmit important messages, and you will be the actors of that. I'm just passing some messages, but it will be up to you to turn them into reality. Why is it important for you to act as a group of European researchers and not just member states entities? Well, it's quite obvious that showing European cohesion in the US, it's quite important. It's quite important to show the importance of also EU regulations in the world. You've all heard about the Green Deal, which put the EU at the forefront of mitigating and fighting climate change, and was then followed by the US in many instances to catch up in some of these regulations that the EU has put forward. So it's important that you act as a single body also towards the US and show the unity of the different European researchers. It's important for you also to discuss among yourself how the EU policies are being implemented. So many of them are linked to research and innovation. Recently, we published a communication, the European Commission published a communication which is called the Global Approach to Research and Innovation, where we outline what are the features of international cooperation from the point of view of the EU. And this is a communication that matters for all of you because it will be implemented by all member states of the EU. So I think it would be a good idea if you discuss that among yourself, what you can do about it, how you are going to make this communication, this global approach, a reality in your own capacity. And I think that this is something that needs to be talked among yourself. Then let's be honest, I mean, you are at the forefront of what's going on here in the US. You know more than anyone else in Europe what's going on here. And it's important that you share these trends among yourself and report back to Europe, to your own colleagues, to your universities, or even to ministries if there are important policy matters that are raised in the US. So this is another dimension that I would really encourage you to discuss among yourself. What are the new trends in the US that you can feed back to Europe? It can be scientific, regulatory, social trends also. There are many different dimensions that scientists, and I will talk about that a little bit later. So many different dimensions that scientists should capture and analyze and report back. Then a more pragmatic aspect. I mean, you are the primary actor to create EU-US collaborations. Because you have different affiliation back in Europe and here, you are the one that will make this very much needed EU-US cooperation even stronger. And the good news is that, for instance, in Horizon Europe, the new framework program for research innovation, we have facilitated the possibility for US groups to take part. So they previously were prevented from really engaging with European researchers in that framework because of some modalities where they needed to sign a model grant agreement. This is no longer the case, and now we have facilitated greatly the possibility for bringing US teams also, so probably your teams, into consortium led by European researchers. This is a very good way to cooperate transatlantic, and I would really engage you and push you to create such cooperation and look with your colleagues back in Europe if they are ready to set up a collaborative project in that framework and see if you can be part and bring some US teams in those consortia. So these are the more European level actions that you can take. Again, you are the actors. It's up to you to discuss all this point. I'm just bringing here some suggestions. Then from my side, I would also, of course, well, be interested in hearing everything you say, of course, but I'm also interested in feedback on your career, the mobility, the conditions, the needs that you might have. I'm always really glad to hear some feedback on how this transatlantic mobility operates. If it's easy to return back to Europe, we know that there are a number of opportunities for you back there through the European Research Council and many other possibilities through national funding. So it's always good if you discuss that, if you decide to discuss that all together and report back to me. I'm very happy to take part in those discussions. Also, of course, it's something that I like to give the feedback to Brussels. Then there is a more societal aspects of the researchers and the scientists, something that we are not traditionally used to talk about, but looking at the current circumstances, I think it's become really, really needed to discuss more and more about the societal engagement of researchers and scientists. Something that works quite well is the evidence-based policymaking. So you see with climate change today, the IPCC, led by researchers only, is driving really the agenda on climate and exposing the needs for political actions in quite an efficient way. But this has not been always the case, because this discussion dates back from 30 years ago. And there have been powerful counterpower, let's say, that have trying to diminish the influence of scientists who were coming with facts. And this is important to bear in mind and to realize that passing through your message through the society at large and to the political level, it's not an easy thing to do, and it requires a lot of efforts, but you should be combative on that. 30 years ago and 40 years ago, we didn't have the internet, and it was already difficult to pass this message. Today, I mean, we have to be very honest, but we really failed to bring the scientific dimension to the social media. We see that conspiracy theorists, anti-vax movement have taken the lead in many instances in social media, whereas we have a whole community of millions of researchers who are actually working and are specialized in all these areas and are not listened to. And I think this is really damageable for the society at large, and it's a responsibility of the scientists to engage also themselves in social media. I really don't understand how people reading a post from an unknown person would believe that person more than the whole scientific community. I think there is a lack of understanding what the scientific community is about. There is a mismatch between the perception of an elite group and what they actually do. You have to be responsible and show to the population at large how you work and what you do and what is your purpose in society. And I think that we have failed to do that drastically with the social media, and this is something that really needs to be done. So I think this is something that you are a privileged position to do, because it's a problem that we share between the EU and the US. And that's something that I really engage you to talk to with your US collaborators and see what can be addressed. We are in the country here where social media were born and are activated, and it is very important that this type of message reaches those companies who are responsible for social media. And this brings me to another thing, actually, the directionality of your research, because if social media exists, it's thanks to scientists. But if you see, very few had anticipated the shortcomings of the algorithm, for example, which are on social media just pushing people in their own circle without being exposed to other ideas and so on because of simple algorithms. An algorithm is man-made, is something that scientists are doing or these companies are doing. So again, what kind of engagement the scientists can have when you see that the result of their research, the result of their activities has such a negative effect. And we can no longer live with very shallow thoughts like, oh, social media will bring democracy, social media will allow for freedom of speech. It is not the case. It is not what is happening. It is to the contrary. In other countries where social media are controlled, it has become a new way to control society. So we cannot no longer play by very simple thoughts and say that whatever science is producing, it will have a positive impact. We have really to measure what kind of impact it has and how to mitigate risk. Albert Einstein, looking at the development of nuclear power, had written to the US president back in time, alerting him of the danger of what would happen. And unfortunately, I mean, we see what happened after that with the dramatic consequence, not from who we expected it, actually. So we have to be very careful, and it is your responsibility also to think about the directionality of your research, what kind of consequence it can have. And let's go a step further, because you are European. We have a tradition of linking science and philosophy, which is not so much the case in the US, unfortunately, but we still have this tradition in Europe. And it is important to probably read again about philosophers to put into questions the type of research we are doing. I'm a big fan of the primatologist Frans de Waal, who has discovered how chimpanzee societies are very complex, whereas several dozen years ago, everyone were thinking that they were just a brute animal because of the philosophical dimension linking the animal kingdom with instincts and the human being with more evolved complex societies. So looking back into what are your paradigm is also important. Why am I saying that? Because we also think very much in very short term. We are thinking that scientific development will solve our solution today, but we're not thinking of the impact in 2 or 3 generations. And that's probably what happened with the consumption of oil. We were not thinking what could happen 100 or 200 years from now. And now we see that those consequences are dramatic. So when you develop some knowledge and research or product, make the efforts of reflecting about this dimension also. So these were my few words. I think I've exhausted the topic from my side. I'm of course very, very interested in hearing yours, but I really wish that looking at the current circumstances, both geopolitical, societal, and technological, that you take this work seriously and that you engage for this type of discussion and reach out to your US partners and back to your European partners back home. So I'll stop here, and I'm happy to answer any questions should you have any. Thank you. And I just want to also pass the floor to my colleague, Vasilis Kotifaris, the press officer, who maybe will say a few words also on the EU delegation, and how you can liaise with what the EU delegation is doing, and how we can support you also in your work here in the US. But before doing so, I would like to ask you what I asked in the beginning of my speech, to switch on your camera, please, more of you, so we have a full screen of faces and not just names. That would be really appreciated, so we can take a decent picture and report back showing the European dynamism and smiley faces that you all have. Thank you very much. So Jackson, I hand it back to you for managing this picture. We still need more, sorry. We're half a screen is still black. So could you please switch on your camera? Unless you have really tough problem with your privacy, but I think you're all on Facebook and Instagram, so I don't see why there should be a problem. There are still too many black screen. Just asking you a few more of you. Thank you very much.
We are looking great, Florent. Thank you, and hello to everyone from the delegation of the European Union. I just wanted to say a thank you to everyone, and we will be amplifying some of your work. And from a public diplomacy side, we're always happy to create stronger relationships with academic research institutions, working with think tanks, and the best way to do that is by amplifying the work that you do. So Jackson, we will be in touch, and to all the great speakers, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Vasilis. And we'll be sharing with our friends here the information list that the delegation is putting forward. So we make sure that you all inform of what we're doing. And again, feel free to reach out to us. Okay, so stop here, and Jackson, is back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Florent and Vasilis, and everyone for helping get. I got a couple nice screenshots then. I'd encourage you to take some as well. So with that, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Dr. Daria Buktiner-Karajan, for some remarks on her end. Thank you so much, Daria. And I think you're muted.
Muted, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jackson. Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening again. And I extend my warmest welcome to each and everyone here in our first networking meeting of 2022. And thank you, Florent, for your opening remarks and for your support. And I think you explained very well why scientific diasporas, researchers, highly skilled talent is very important for both hosting or receiving, home countries. So it's also great to see our diaspora leaders and embassy representatives who had with us in our focus groups an annual meeting, and they promoted our survey in their networks, and personally they also supported. So many thanks for being us again. And it's also wonderful to see new faces hoping to have wonderful 1 hour with us. So today I would like to share very shortly our future vision and plans, because after that, after knowing the importance of you, researchers as diaspora leaders or diaspora members, it is a kind of mission for us as EURAXESS North America, and Jackson explained it briefly. We as EURAXESS North America, we are working as a European Commission initiative that promotes Europe as a research destination, and EURAXESS North America acts as the information broker and point of contact in the US and Canada. So we are not only covering only the US, also we would like to reach Canadian diaspora networks too. And we provide a platform for European scientific diasporas to network among themselves and their North American counterparts. So we see the potential benefits of creating a European scientific diaspora network and keeping these networks connected. I think, Florent, you explained it from different dimensions and aspects. Thank you. And we really want to go beyond this, and these diasporas, as you mentioned, serve as a good source of information for their home countries, host countries, and they are the key actors of science, technology, and innovation cooperation between the countries from different aspects. So we aim to create a structured and a larger diaspora network in North America. We know that thousands of highly skilled talent, expats, postdocs, PhD students are pursuing their careers in the US and Canada. And in the future, as you also mentioned, they may wish to go back to Europe, or they want to stay in US or Canada, or they choose other countries to pursue their career. But for each option, being a part of a network will help them create connections, share experiences, get information or advice or mentoring on various topics, and team up easily with the other researchers to have larger cooperation in science, for their research. And it is, of course, going to affect in a larger, picture, the transatlantic relations in science cooperation. So we have initiated and organized various activities. I think most of you know it, like annual meetings, European Research Days, Scientific Diaspora meetings, career development events. And all these events and initiatives help us connect with the existing networks. And now we have a really enlarging, good, very close relationships and good stakeholders and partners. But at the same time, we want to help researchers to create their own networks and be a guide for connecting them with their peers. We have started ESD Incubator Program, and we announced it in our annual meeting in December, which offers tailored support services to research networks. Perhaps in the future, it's going to be more important, and we will mention it more because we are still working on these projects. And we also have initiated a pool of slides or templates, I can say, including the information of European scientific diasporas and their leaders or representatives. So we want to expand this platform, this pool, with the support of these networking events, with the connection with social media. So we are still really working on it, and we need perhaps more support from you, from EU delegation, from the EU institutions. So all these efforts at the end altogether can offer a great example of community of practice. And so what are the next steps for us? We will go on these events for sure. I mean, networking events, but a bit different perhaps style or format. So we will go on connecting with them through different platforms and channels. So if we have enough resources in the future, we hope that we can create a platform that everybody or every researcher, European mostly, of course, can quickly reach out the updated information about their scientific diasporas and then promote their networks. This is something we hope to do in the future, and we can, this is what we also want. For example, they can mark their places on an interactive map of European diasporas. So these are some of our plans and next steps for the future. So I want to thank you again for joining us, and I wish you would enjoy the rest of your program. Thank you for your time again.
I must admit, I am an emotional person, and when I heard Florent's presentation, it's like music to the ears to really understand how the points that you are making are so important. I don't know if you know the story of Ragusa, now called Dubrovnik. Ragusa used to have 300 ambassadors spread throughout the world to understand what was happening, what were the trends, and that helped Ragusa to be stronger because it was having the knowledge of what was in the forefront at that time. And is an example of good knowledge management, intellectual capital, and so on. Also, a diaspora is like when you have those flowers where you blow them and all the seeds go away. It's a positive way to disperse seeds and to make things grow. But it also needs the support. So it's very nice to know that the Commission is putting so much emphasis on this, because a community of practitioners such as the one of the European Scientific Diaspora, and with the support of the EURAXESS as researchers in motion, that is the motto of EURAXESS. I think it's a brilliant idea. We don't know where it can go, but at least we know that we believe in it and that we can put energy in it. To this purpose, we organized this first series of meetings that we would like to make in a recurrent way. So to start with, we have some questions to just profile the meetings. according to the needs of the participants in terms of the timing, the focus, and so on. So I'm going to share, apart from sharing what Daria was showing as example of the demand and supply, you know, what you're looking for and what you would like to offer as a researcher that is now based in Canada and in the US. I'm going to now share a link to a poll. Just 1 second, so you can join and answer with your answers. Yes, there it is. Welcome back. How was the networking? Did you find the new connections between the neurons and the synapses?
Yes, I found Erica, who is searching for more researchers to collaborate from Italy or from other countries. So it was really fun and good to know what she is doing in her research area. Yeah.
I thought I was being helpful by recommending that a Romanian researcher connect to the Romanian diaspora network. And then he commented to me that they're good friends. But I also, I was slightly embarrassed for a moment, but then I also realized this shows how productive and up and running the networks are in the first place. So to think that we can just provide a supporting role and help them continue to do what they do best, I think is reassuring. So thank you very much, Theodore, for being here and representing the Romanian Diaspora Network. And I also had a great chat with a Greek Canadian new friend now about his work. And what I'd like to do is, in the remaining, there's never enough time. This could go on for 5 hours and I'd still have more to say. But I was about to express to him, and I would sort of open this to everyone, that we have our mandates. You can look at our past events and our past news articles on the website and see what we've done. But we're also very much supported by the Commission in general to come up with their own unique ideas and initiatives. So for example, something we haven't had a call for, we haven't published this idea openly, but if you guys have your own research that you'd like to highlight is a successful example of a report you've written or research you've done as a European in general, is from whatever nationality you're from, we can highlight that from on our news portal. Is just simply a success story, and from there boost your own researcher profile, but then also help you be found by other members of the community and by people in your own discipline. So I express this to you to give you the idea and the encouragement that our doors at EURAXESS are open. Shoot us an email if you have an idea for something we've never done, but that you think can be useful to you as a researcher and to European research and transatlantic research collaboration generally. We want to move forward with that. So whether it's a webinar, event, us speaking, or you suggesting a speaker, or us having profile, I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here. We've got a lot that we want to work with you on. So I'll echo from Dr. Bernard's suggestions on behalf of the delegation. We as a project also mirror that same openness to you. So thank you very much, everyone, for chatting in the groups with me.
Thank you, Jackson. So I think there will be other meetings, because it's quite clear there is interest. Topics, we need to identify ways to express those topics. We just have to see how frequent these meetings can be, but they can be like this one, quite short, and an opportunity to connect. Remember to fill in your profile if you haven't done so on the slide deck that we have shared. I don't know if Florent, you would like to add something, and as we are approaching the closing of this networking session.
Thank you, Paolo. No, it was very great. I had a great exchange with Joseph, PhD candidate, so from the US. So I just want to extend my welcome to the US researchers, of course, who are part of this call. It's great to have you here, and also encourage you to go to Europe to create those networks on that side of the Atlantic. I mean, Jackson and Daria will have explained to all of you the Marie Skłodowska reactions, and even for PhD candidates, which are quite easy to get, because you just need to apply it for the job, basically. So just want to welcome the US researchers in this group. Just a comment of what I've seen today. So I've seen many of the proposals were very and rightly, let's say, centered on the current problem of researchers finding funding. Obviously, I mean, we know that, and I mean, that's why we in Brussels we push for higher and higher funding in Horizon Europe, and we managed to increase it substantially in we doubled it actually every framework program. We mobilize much more money for Marie Skłodowska reaction, for ERC. So of course we are aware of that, and the international competition is becoming more fierce, and so we are likely to see this funding increase, which is good. It's a good news for being researchers nowadays. Also on the obstacles, good to know. I mean, we're mostly aware of those. It's good to have a feedback on that. But I'd like to see also more about policy feedback. So what you can bring to the policymakers, to the society. These are things that are important. Just reminding you from what I was saying earlier. Remember, for those who are old enough, Carl Sagan. We just need to have him on TV, and the whole America and Europe would listen to him. It's not the case anymore. We don't have this setting anymore, unfortunately. You need to do this differently and find how to do that. And also important for us in Brussels or in the policymaking job to have your feedback on important scientific topic. So I would propose also at some point that I propose some topic and you would volunteer for creating a group, and then we could organize a policy feedback session on that. So that's my suggestion and my last word for today. Thank you very much.
Hello, I will ask you and Daria to please close out our event, but just for me to make a brief remark, someone has sent a message to me asking if they can have an attendee list, which I think reflects that hopefully most people or all people in the audience feel that the conversations have been really productive and really fun. So I think what I'll do is I'll work with all of my co-hosts and great partners to craft a follow-up message. I'm not sure if this will be coming out tomorrow, but basically I'll work in a prompt manner to send a follow-up email. And then from there, I'll sort of ask permission of everyone. And for those that reply yes, I'll then send a second follow-up message, perhaps with names and email addresses and LinkedIn. Basically, whatever you reply to that email with, I can share sort of in a public, in the sense of everyone that's getting that email will be able to see it. But I also don't want to share anything without people's explicit permission. So be on the lookout for 1 or 2 follow-up emails from us at EURAXESS. But Paolo and Daria, thank you so much for helping run the show, and Florent for your great remarks as well. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending, for being involved. We hope you'll join the next meeting that we'll craft with a lot of passion based on your feedback. So yeah, Paolo and Daria, please take it away. Thank you so much.
What I could add is, Florent, you can use the power of facilitation also when you address a specific topic. It can be designed. We have had the possibility also with many of the people present, Alma, Laurie, also Theodore, to reflect on the key issues. So we can also design events so that they are more co-designed activities, so that you can get recommendations that are more structured, not just a list of things. So it was simply great. I'm really honored to be a European citizen and to be connecting from Pisa. I'm leaning like the tower. And Daria, Jackson, also thank you very much. So yeah. Thank everyone for your participation.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I also want to say the last words, but thank you, Paolo. Thank you, Jackson. I mean, this is, I think, great work together that we are doing. We are really good colleagues. And I want to say thank you. And Florent, your support is really valuable for us. So we are looking forward to cooperate in the future. And I have some ideas. I mean, for example, you really need feedback from our, attendees. So what, for example, do is that after each of these meetings, we can put a survey, short survey, so that what you want from these, what you want to learn from these, these are data for me very important, so that we can collect at the end of the year about what they want, what they need, so that even with this data, it can be a kind of part of a policy feedback for you. So we will think about this, how we can support you, how we can also enlarge our network and our work scope, because we have some aims, but as I told you, it is not something that we can just do it very quickly with the help of your support. I mean, thank you for your time. I know that this 1.5 hours is not short for you. I mean, it is just something that very important. So thank you again. I'm really looking forward to meeting you all, and more, of course, from your network.
May I add one last thing? I had by chance the opportunity of meeting Alexandra Dozy from the Netherlands Embassy. And it's quite clear that also there is this other layer among the embassies of working together, because the Europeans move between countries no matter what their country of belonging is. So how can the various embassies also coordinate among themselves so as to provide a stronger, without reinventing the wheel all the time, you know, because the resources are not unlimited. So we have to work. So thank you very much, Alexandra, for your feedback and ideas as well.
Thank you. It was a great conversation, Paulo.
Great. With that, I just want to thank you all again one more time, and wish you well. You'll be receiving some follow-up communication from us with all of the URLs we've mentioned from the EURAXESS side and from the European Union delegation side. So thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations for the event. Thank you.
Thank you.